Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today, I am talking to Jared James Nichols. He's already spent a decade making a name for himself with his dynamic brand of blues rock and his flamboyant, pickless playing style. But with his tellingly self-titled third album, this Wisconsin-bred, Nashville-based singer-guitarist has truly come into his own. And not coincidentally, this new beginning arrives after two traumatic events that very nearly ended things for him. The first came in the fall of 2021, when he suffered a sudden freak injury that could easily have cost him his career. The second was a year later, when a routine traffic accident turned into an armed encounter that could have cost him much, much more. Both incidents factor heavily into the take no prisoners attitude and full speed ahead approach Nichols displays on his self-titled album, a barn burner that finds him doing what he wants, the way he wants. In the lull between Christmas and New Year, the hardworking rocker zoomed in to talk about his playing style, being a Gibson ambassador, running for his life, and plenty more. Enjoy. Hey there, Jared James Nichols.
Hey man, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. How's it going with you?
Good. Can you see and hear me okay?
I can see and hear you okay. Can you see and hear me okay?
I love the posters. Yeah, of course.
Well, there we go. I don't have one of yours. I'd have that one up. So, but
Oh
I did
man,
put on my my Gibson shirt for you. So there you
I
go.
love it.
So you're a busy man working over the holidays. How many of these are you doing today?
Today I have 4,
Wow, you're
which
crazy.
is not bad to be honest. Well, sometimes I'm doing like maybe 8 to 10.
Yeah, well, that's good. The better, it's when they don't want to talk to you that you want to worry, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because some of my friends will go, "Oh man, you're always hustling. You're always doing this and doing that," and I kind of tell them what you just said. It's like, well, when they're not calling, then we got a problem.
Exactly.
Until
Exactly.
then, I'll keep working.
All right, all right. Well, let's get down to it. We're here to talk about your new album, your upcoming album, your third album, but it's
Yes.
self-titled, which is kind of most people start that way.
Hmm.
So there are a few reasons why people do this, but I'd like to hear what yours is for going the self-titled route this time.
So my reason for the self-titled is out of everything I've ever recorded, this, I finally feel like I found my stride. I finally feel like I found the sonic vision. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel like I really honed in on what I wanted to create, not only for this album, but when I think about who I am as an artist. So when we were thinking about names for the record, I was thinking about all these different names and stuff, but in the back of my head, I just kept going, man, I want to just self-title it. I know it's album 3, but I just want to do it. So I brought it up and we just went with it because I feel like this is now the benchmark
Yeah.
of everything I've done before, but now where I'm going.
Well, it kind of makes sense because I mean, third albums to me are always interesting because usually your first one is like, it's the 10 best songs that you had 20 years to write.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the
yeah.
second one is all the leftovers, right? That weren't good
Mhm.
enough for the first album. So with the third album, a lot of artists, I think, are actually starting from scratch again, right? Because you've burned through all the songs and it's kind of okay. And you've had enough time in the studio to sort of maybe get your feet a little more under you and figure out what you want to do and where to go, right?
100%. I mean, for me personally, the first record was the first time I was ever in a real recording studio.
Wow.
So I listen back to it and I kind of laugh in a good way though, because it's like a snapshot in time, right? I can
Right.
hear myself trying to figure it out. And then the second record, it was made kind of while we were on the road. I'd come home for a few days here, a few days there. This is the first time, like you said, taking everything I've done before and like all the experience and everything. This is the first time I sat down and I went, okay, that was then, this is now, all fresh, all new. So yeah, it felt right for the third record.
Right. And I mean, if there's one thing that I always hear said about you, it's that people have to see you live to really appreciate you and get what you're doing and understand what you're all about. And I kind of get the sense that conveying that from the stage to the studio was kind of job one this time out.
Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Yes. So I'll never forget, we were playing a show. I think we were in London and this couple comes up and the guy goes, mate, sounded brilliant. Oh my God. One of the best shows I've ever seen. You sound so much better live than you do on your records. And I went, thanks,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I've heard that from many people. They said, and it's been very hard. I'm open about it translating like the live effect to the record, especially when we're in the studio and, okay, let's set down the drums, then we'll put the bass, then we'll put the guitar. It felt a little bit too constructed. So with this record, we wanted it to serve as the live menu. You know what I mean? So like we went in the studio and we played basically as if we were playing a live show.
Right.
We recorded straight to tape. The only thing that was overdubbed was my vocal. And it just felt really good to do that because it was that kind of the harness of, okay, let's get the energy, let's get that stick of dynamite going off, but let's do it in the studio.
You actually recorded the tape?
No computers were used. We recorded to tape, no click, no metronome. We even tuned our guitars to each other. We went so old school, and not old school just to be old school. Right. It was kind of I don't know what the right word is. It was like a mission statement for this record. It was like, we're going to play everything. We're not going to fix anything. We are going to simply, everything that we do live, the band was so well rehearsed. It's like, let's lay that down. So yeah, it was kind of nerve wracking. We were in the studio and our producer, Eddie Spear, he was in there and we used this really cool old tape machine. It was actually used to make Blizzard of Oz, Ozzy Osbourne, which is pretty cool.
Come on.
But our producer, Eddie, we're in the studio, Blackbird, and he's got this big controller. I mean, this thing's from like, I think he said like 78. So it's going, and we can hear it in our headphones, and then all of a sudden it would, and he'd go, all of a sudden we'd hear, and he'd go, we're rolling. And it was like, we'd look at each other, we'd go like, take a deep breath and be like, all right, here we go. Bam.
Cool. Mm-hmm. And so was there a lot of retakes and screwing up, or did you kind of just plow through everything?
Well, we did what our point was, we were going to say, okay, no more than 3. Okay. So what we would do is like, the first one was always like, someone would stop halfway through, or, you know what I mean? Like someone would get mad, but we were so well rehearsed that we knew when we were coming in there, we had one goal, like, let's track this stuff. So we didn't do any more than 3 takes. A few of them were on the first take. Nice. And we would always do 2 or 3. And then we'd go inside, we'd listen all back and we'd say, all right, this one feels the best. And, it was a weird experience because it was so free. Like we were only thinking about like, okay, how's this feel? How's this sound? It wasn't like, hey, you missed that note. It was like, no, there's a lot of notes missed, but it's like records.
Yeah. So now you can't go back to like recording digitally into the box, can you?
Well, I sometimes, so like I have a lot of friends that like I'll write songs with and everything's in the box, right? And I totally understand it, but there's in my heart of hearts, it's like, oh, I just love this. I love this vibe. It's like nothing else. So fun.
It makes sense, or it kind of fits to me too with this album, because this is an album that just spans a lot of eras and sounds. I mean, it's primarily blues rock and some southern rock, but there's metal in here, there's grunge. I mean, I hear Montrose and Kiss and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, and I could name 10 other bands that you can go, oh, that sounds like not derivative, but just you can kind of tell.
For sure.
But the thing is, you're too young to have heard all of this shit firsthand. So how did you come onto all this?
Well, okay, great point too. Being a guitar player, I had no aspirations to play music ever in my life. I wanted to be a mechanic. When I was 15, going on 16, going into high school, basically, my friends had guitars and everyone was starting to kind of pick up drums or whatever. And originally I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll hang out with my friends. I'll play the drums. And it was like, growing up, my parents always listened to the classic stuff that they grew up on. So my dad was listening to Bob Dylan, Hendrix, Jim Croce, Mamas and the Papas, stuff like that. Really, really cool stuff. And I was always listening to oldies, and I loved classic rock radio. So as a kid, I grew up in Wisconsin. I knew every lyric to every single classic rock song. I was absorbing all this music, not ever thinking I'd ever play. But when I picked up the guitar, it was like, whoa, I love this. I don't know what's going on. And I just fell in love, right? So one of the funny things, as I grew as a player, a lot of people, I was into blues and blues rock and, that heavy guitar stuff. Right. But I didn't grow up listening to Hendrix when he was new, or Clapton, or any of these people. When I was growing up, man, truth be told, it was like boy bands. It was it was like, I heard like Kid Rock and the Backstreet Boys, and like I remember the Spice Girls. That was like some of the first popular music I remember hearing, at the time.
Uh-huh.
So I always laugh with people when they're like, well, if you're gonna play, like, you got to play like the 60s stuff, and it's like, man. So going into your point, it's like listening to Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. That was the first cool rock stuff I heard on the radio.
Right.
So I just absorbed it all. And a while ago, I started to let go of like the pigeonhole thing of being like, yeah, blues rock, Stevie Ray, Hendrix, this is what I listen to. For me, man, I get off on all types of music. So everything from grunge to, all the Guitar Hero stuff to country. I like it all.
But somehow you make it all hang together on this album. Is there a secret to that?
Oh man, no secret. You know what? The only secret is, I think, as a listener hears it, this is like, I guess, how I absorbed music. And like, to me, this is the natural way it comes out. So I think, if anything, what I've really gotten across on this record is you can hear kind of the music inside my head, the way I'm constructing it, where it's like bridging the gaps between like, classic blues stuff into grunge, into like some heavier Sabbathy stuff. So I think, if anything, it gives the listener a little bit more insight into what's going on in my head.
Makes sense. Talking about picking up guitar, I mean, your style is really unique. I mean, you don't use a pick, and your right hand is just kind of poking the string sometimes. I see you do. Where did that come from? Did you just like not take lessons and do this all yourself, or did somebody actually give you this kind of pointers?
No. So you're gonna love this story. I'll keep it short, but I'm a lefty.
Really?
I'm a lefty. Yeah.
Wow.
So when I first picked up a guitar, here's a righty. I was holding it like this, and I remember when my parents, they realized I really wanted to get into guitar. So when you bought the guitar from the guitar shop, it came with a free intro lesson, and I remember walking in the room, and I'll never forget, I still keep in touch with him. His name is Craig Freemoth. I walk in, and he has an Eddie Van Halen stripe, and all of a sudden he goes, wow, wow, and he's doing all this, and I'm like, what? So I'm holding my guitar, and the first thing he says, he goes, dude, you got to flip the guitar. And I was like, oh. So I flip it, and then I realized, I'm like, okay, this already kind of feels odd. This hand feels good fretting, but he handed me a pick, and I'm holding it, and I'm like, this feels weird. So for about, I would say, honestly, 2 years, I really, really tried to play guitar with a pick. But what I noticed was I kept always like setting it down, or like, I like to feel the strings underneath my finger. So when I strike it, I could feel it, just like on this hand. So it's like, you feel the notes here. I wanted to feel them here. So I remember I started listening to like all this old stuff, like Jeff Beck and Albert King and all these guitar heroes. And I was studying these guys, and I was going, they don't use a pick. And then I would, my friends, I'd tell them I was kind of messing with it, and they'd be like, no, you have to use a pick. There's no way that you'll ever be able to be a professional guitar player without a pick. And at this point, I didn't care. I was just like, well, this feels good to play guitar like this. So no one taught me the fingerstyle thing. I just kind of would look at guys I admired, even guys with picks, and I try and figure out my own way how to play their stuff. And what I didn't realize at the time was I was kind of, how do I say it? I was shaping one of the unique qualities of my playing. So years go by now, I'm like 20 years old. I moved to Los Angeles, and I start to play, and people start going, hey, you're that no pick guy. And I was like, yeah. Never occurred to me that this was going to be this unique factor. But then all of a sudden it was like, I would hear people talking like, yeah, he doesn't play with a pick, dude. It's crazy. So it was just a unique thing that felt good to me that I ended up, developing, and it became one of the signature points of my style, which is pretty cool.
Oh, it works for you. And the other thing is, I mean, you're a big guy. You're 6'5", and you've got some big paws on you. I mean, because I look at your hand on the fretboard, and it's just like you could, basically just yank it off, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Is that an advantage in some ways? Because I would think it's kind of, you could be, you can spread your, from 5 to 12 or whatever in an instant.
Yeah.
I think you've also got these big ham hocks to try and get delicate with,
I think what it's, people will say, I'm from Wisconsin, so like I said before, like I always tell people I'm corn fed, but the reality is, like, when I'm playing guitar, people will be like, are you playing a smaller guitar like in a video? It's like, no,
it looks like a tenor. Yeah.
One of the advantages I noticed that having good hand strength, I guess, is, bending and playing lead single note guitar. That always felt really good. And it felt, I don't want to use the word like effortless, but when I wanted to bend a string, it just felt natural. And that's why I always do that, because it just feels so good. And I love the way it sounds. The one thing that I will say though, is like, there's certain guitars that like are kind of hard to play.
Yeah.
Like,
too small for you?
yeah, they're a little too small. Or like, I love flying V's, but when I hold a flying V, the inside of that guitar, like from the neck to the body, is only, it's so small, right? I got to break it down, right? But it's almost like it feels like a toy, and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. But I don't know if there's any advantages, but I would definitely say that the way I play, my size and the style has definitely shaped the way I play, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, talking about going back to wanting to get your sound on tape and kind of get that experience happening. I'm wondering how much of that also was kind of maybe a side effect of you having this arm surgery.
Oh yeah.
And kind of maybe facing the prospect of, okay, I might not be able to do this the same way I was doing it before, so I should really do what I want to do specifically,
Yes. Oh my God. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So when I messed up my arm, it was a freak accident, and it sucked because it sidelined me so hard. I was on tour, and the simplest thing turned into hey man, you gotta have an emergency surgery to put my bone chipped. So they had to fix it. Right.
Right.
So when this all happened, I remember thinking like, wow. And it's always funny. It's like that quote, like, don't miss your water till the well's dry. Right. And then all of a sudden I'm like, man, just an hour ago, I was playing guitar like a madman, and now I can't even hold up my arm. So it did definitely shock the system. But I knew that for me, it was like, I wasn't going to let it. I already knew. I was like, there's no way that this is going to end what I'm doing. But with that, I started to like think about it, and I was like, man, when it was almost like, when I get to pick up that guitar again, I am just going to go for it. I am just play like there's no tomorrow. So shaping this record, it's funny when like things like that happen, it kind of opens your eyes quickly to the point of saying like, you know what, why am I doing this? I want to do this. So I think in life, that's something that we all deal with, where it's like, I've been milling around thinking about it. I'm done thinking about it. I'm just going to do it.
Right.
So if anything, that kind of shaped that, having that injury shaped the fact that I'm like, no, we're in the moment. We're going to do this.
Are there any after effects that have sort of changed the way your hands or your arms work, or the
A
way
little bit.
Yeah.
Do you ever see that movie Rookie of the Year?
No. Sorry.
Okay, it's a kid who breaks his arm, and all of a sudden he can pitch really fast.
Oh, okay.
Like his arm is like all of a sudden like, right. Well, what I noticed with my arm, since there's a little piece of steel in there now, it's almost like it's a little stronger than my normal. It's like bionic, man. So I have actually, there has been times where like I've noticed, like the strength is a little more, and it's a little more punchy. But as far as playing goes, thankfully, no. The only thing I had to do for a little while is I had to raise my guitar up just so I could keep my arm kind of arched. But it's funny, if you look at old pictures of Les Paul, the guy Les Paul, when he was playing, he got in a car accident, he broke the bone.
Oh no, he got it set. Yeah.
And he got it set so he could play guitar. So I didn't have it set, but I just kept my arm like that so I could play.
I was going to say, Wisconsin, you're from the same place, basically. So,
It's weird, dude. Like there's always these parallels. And someone I was talking to the other day was like, Les Paul, they broke their arm at the same spot as you did. And I said, really? And I went and looked it up, and sure enough, which is so funny.
He just didn't have the hair.
No.
But the thing is, that's not even the worst thing that's happened to you in the last couple of years. I don't necessarily make you want to, repeat an awful experience, but a hit and run driver smacks into you and then pulls a gun on you.
Yeah, man, that was so crazy.
So what's going through your mind when all that happens, as opposed to, or is it just run?
Well, you know what? What's so funny about it is, for as many shows as I've played and been on tour, I mean, I know there's many people that have done a lot more than I have, but in 2019, I was on the road for 308 days straight. So like, I'm no stranger to being in places I don't know with people I don't, you know what I'm trying to say? Like having that kind of lifestyle.
You're
So
no
this
babe in
was
the
like
woods. Yeah.
yeah, this is like a night like any other. I was with a friend. We went out after my show. We got a burger. He was taking me back to the hotel. We're at a stoplight and there's no one around. And all of a sudden from behind, bam, and we get rocked, right? So the first thing that's going through my head is I'm noticing I'm getting super flush, right? Because of my adrenaline. And I was like, uh-oh, am I hurt? That's the first thing. Because after the arm, it's like I'm hyper aware now where it's like, did I hurt myself again?
Yeah.
So with this happening, we honestly, at first, we thought we got hit by a drunk driver or someone wasn't paying attention and hit us. But then we noticed that as we came to, the driver got out of that truck, went into another truck, and they sped off. So we're like, man, that was a hit and run. Like, what were they doing, right? So we call the cops, we're waiting. Next thing you know, I'm sitting there, me and my friend, we're freaked out because we got hit pretty hard. And like when you get hit like that, you're like, am I okay? Like, oh, I'm already getting sore. And they come back and the guy jumps out of the truck to get stuff out of the truck that they had left for dead. Then the driver comes right up to me with the gun. So what was going through my head at that point was, there's no way this is happening right now. Like I couldn't even believe that this was the reality. And in my brain, I instantly thought, is this the way I'm going to go down right here? After all this, stuff I've been able to do and all these places I've been, it's going to be like a Tuesday in Portland at like 11:30 at night, like there's no way this could be it for me. So anyways, instantly I was thinking like, how do I get out of this? So yeah, it was the mere thing of, well, I'd rather have him try and shoot. If I'm trying to run away, maybe he'll miss. So that was what was going through my head. But that was such a crazy incident that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And yet again, another incident that like opens your eyes to the fact that you're like, man, our world, there's, we all build up our world and this is what we do. But obviously outside things can happen that totally open your eyes and make you grateful for what you have.
Yeah, no kidding. So we ran like right into the cops basically as they were showing
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like a construction site. We're basically on the corner of this intersection. Our car got pushed into the intersection. And as I turned to run, like I'm running like Usain Bolt, like, like I am. And I go like this and I turn like this. And in my peripheral vision, I see the blue and red light and I hear woo woo.
Yeah.
And I look and they're looking at me. And I remember that the cops were like, and then they see, and I said, he's got a gun, and I'm running. And right there, and the guy put the gun back in his front of his waistband. They got in the truck and they ripped out of there. But it was like saved by the bell.
Yeah. Did they ever find him?
No, they didn't go after him.
Oh, well, good thing you don't live in Portland anyway.
I know. It's crazy, man. But another situation that thankfully it went at all ended well for me. But yeah, eye opener.
So then what's the plan for 2023 now with all of this,
Oh yeah. Well, I gotta
momentum
take all
and
this
drive,
Hey, I gotta take all this bad stuff and turn it into good. No. Well, the plan is we got the record coming out January 13th, which I'm so excited about. It's been like, I feel like I've been sitting on this forever. So it's kind of like I'm about to have a baby. It's like my baby, So we got this going on. And then we start out, we have a bunch of album release shows. I have a lot of exciting stuff planned. We're just about to announce a European tour, and we're already starting to book into late spring into summer. Nice. And then also on the other front, I have some cool stuff happening with Gibson and Epiphone, talking about, more models that'll come out in the next year, and just a lot of fun stuff, man. Always on the run, and got a ton of fun stuff happening.
So aside from getting a bunch of free stuff, what is involved in being a brand ambassador for Gibson?
Well, people have to call me Mr. Ambassador. No, I'm just kidding.
Your Highness.
So the thing is, I've had this relationship with Gibson, I would say honestly, for about a decade, where if they have events, and this was started when I first moved to Los Angeles, if they have events, they needed someone to play. I remember waking up, like the first event I did with them was like 5:30 for the news for like the Les Paul Foundation, stuff like that. And I just solidified myself almost as primarily a Gibson player because that's what I love. And with that, you know, I've released 2 signature models. And I've done a ton of different content for like their online stuff where I teach lessons. I've broken down some of my songs, just a bunch of different stuff. But really what happened was this kind of came together. I was hanging out with Cesar, who's the head of Gibson over there. And I remember talking to him. He had Gary Moore's guitar, Greenie, that Kirk Hammett owns. And I was over there playing at his house and jamming on the guitar. And he goes, so what's going on? What's next? Blah, blah, blah. And we were just talking. I said, you know what would be awesome one day? I want to become an ambassador like Slash. He's like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, young guy like you on the ranks, you know. The next day, man, I get a call. Hey, we would love to formally invite you to become an ambassador, which is honestly a dream come true for me. So basically what it means is just more continuation of signature models, different kind of partnerships with like, you know, I just hosted event Guitars for Vets. So I host events, just solidifying myself with Gibson, which is so cool. Cause even if they didn't want me as a brand ambassador, they have me as one, you know, cause I do it anyways.
Cool. And did you get any songs out of the hit and run thing?
You know, I got some good ideas. I've been writing a bunch of stuff. One of my friends was like, dude, we have to write a song about it. And we wrote it and everyone is really liking it. So we'll see if I'm going to use it or not.
There you go.
Tons of inspiration, dude.
Well, I guess that's one good thing to come out of it anyway.
No doubt.
All right. Well, listen, man, I know you got other people to talk to, so I will let you go, but I'll say thanks for the music. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, man.
And
thanks so much. Hey, is that David Bowie poster behind you? Is that from the Let's Dance record?
It's from the German tour for that album. Yeah.
That's killer.
Yeah. And really cool. You got to come back through Canada again. You come through Canada like a lot, but
it's been so long already, dude. I think we're gonna come through Canada this next year.
Yeah. Well, you've been. I live in Winnipeg. You've been here at least like 3 times in the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We played the Burton Cummings Theater once with
you did. Yeah, you did Fozzy, and then I think you were here with Zach once.
Yes.
And you did a solo, like you were in a bar downtown. You did like just a thing by yourself, I think. I know 3 times at least.
Yeah, at least 3 times. Yeah, I really like Winnipeg. One of my best friends is from Winnipeg.
Who's that?
His name's Todd Harapiak. He actually does the content. He runs Gibson TV. Oh, okay. So like that's his thing. And then there's another guy from Winnipeg. His name's Sean Deely.
Yeah, I know his name. Yeah.
His dad owns a case company. I
don't
know what the cases are called, like road cases. But he is the sound engineer at Sweetwater Studios in Fort Wayne. So
and then Brent Fitz and Brent Fitz is I used to work. Yeah. So that's awesome. It's all Winnipeggers, man.
It's the Peggers, man. Well, cool, dude. Well, thanks for chatting with me.
And you, and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you somewhere down the road.
I'll see you in the Peg soon, man. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.